Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first TecherdsTom podcast. I am Dale, and joining me is my business partner, Tom. And we thought this would be a good opportunity for everybody out there to get to know us as people and for us to share our value and what we have learned in our respective industries and the industry that we're working on at the moment. So we thought we'd kick off this very first podcast with freelancing, but specifically, what can you actually freelance in? Because everybody thinks of 9-to-5 jobs and working in an office, and it's restrictive, and you go there in the morning and you finish it late at night. But as we're going to find out, the world has changed ever since the internet came along, and because of the internet, everything's opened up and everybody can travel now, everybody can work from a laptop. So we thought it'd be interesting to see, okay, what is actually the scope of what can you do on the internet? So Tom, what's your experience in this?
So my direct personal experience is in the technology space, both working as a developer and up into management roles, which eventually ended up leading to certain project management positions and just general coordination. I would say I'm 31 now. I haven't had a job since I was about 24. So I've been in this space one way or another for quite a long time. My particular situation is certainly not the extent to which you can get involved in, let's say, freelancing, let's say contracting, let's say working online, making money online, all of the above.
Yeah.
And the way I did it, in fact, is probably the longest route you can take to get into it. Now, it's a good route. It pays well. It's kind of a dead cert. It will work if you stay the course. But number one, not everyone's suited to writing code. And in fact, even if you are a bit like me, you get sick of it eventually in many cases, and you'll want to veer off anyway. Now, lots of opportunities present themselves that are non-coding related if you know how to code, because you can bring a lot of value anyway for instance, in a project management position by understanding the detail of what's going on in the project. There's other examples as well, but you don't have to go that route. You can do it with virtually any service. If you think of any activity in a business, copywriting, email marketing, which is sort of related to copywriting in many respects, but not necessarily, just general digital marketing. So that can be paid socials, it can be just social media in general.
Yeah.
Any activity that a business does, there is someone somewhere doing it in a freelance capacity. And then if you extrapolate that, not only is there someone somewhere doing it in a freelance capacity, you've got someone then with one client that they're serving all day, every day, month to month. You've got other people who've got 20 clients that they're serving, each of them a little bit over the week. Then you've got the step beyond that where they've got clients in different parts of the world. And then you're really getting into the sweet spot of not having to be based, in my case, for instance, in the UK, but you can basically move anywhere in the world and retain the same money you were making in a big expensive country like the UK, but go and have a nicer, better, not only lifestyle, but better weather, probably better food, better everything in many respects.
Yeah.
Freelancing is the key to freedom. It's ironic that free is in the name, because it is the best way for an individual who maybe doesn't want to have the responsibility of managing a company with lots of employees and maybe doesn't even know how to get to that. Freelancing is the best way there is today to live that free life. And in fact, just to add one final point onto it, if you're good at freelancing and you've got a head for business, you can turn that into an agency.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of companies now are actually if you spend a certain amount of time on the internet, on social media, and you read and you hear what people are saying, a lot of companies now are actually preferring freelancers. I mean, because it suits them, because they don't have to pay full-time wages, for instance. And say if their workload kind of is predicted to fluctuate, they can take people on as and when the work increases, and then they don't have to take on, they don't have to retain those people. Like if the work slackens off. So I think it takes a certain type of person to be able to. I mean, some people are just naturally, they just want the comfort of a 9 to 5, but then there's guys like us who are not happy with. I think we can both agree that we find it quite restrictive, and I don't personally want to be tied to an office, having to go into an office and answer. I'm forced to answer to some boss that I don't even like. Obviously, like with freelancing, you have people who are giving you instructions. But if you find that somebody that you're working for is, there's a clash somewhere, you don't like that person, they're not good at giving instructions or something like that, you can do a project for them, and then you can say thank you, but I'm not going to work for you anymore. Like that's it. You can pick and choose, if you're good enough, the projects that you take on. And I mean, we're both in the situation where we can work with the people that we want to work with, and as long as you've got a good reputation, then those people are going to keep rehiring you, because you are easy to work with, you can follow instructions, you have a high quality of work, and you're just easy to get along with, which is what every project manager wants. What's your experience with like working for people and then working as a freelancer? Because you've done both, haven't you? You've done the 9 to 5 and you've done the freelancing.
Yeah, I think if people are really honest with themselves, their reason for disliking a boss or colleagues is generally in some way attributable to the fact that they're probably not that busy. If you're very busy, you don't have time to get involved in office politics, in drama. It's just not, it doesn't even interest you. If the clock is ticking and you've got a million things to do, you're not paying attention to that. Now, the reason I bring that up is because that point you've made is almost, I would say 70% of the time, let's say, negated by being in a freelance capacity, because chances are you've got more than one client. So let's say you've got 3 hours dedicated to this client on this day. You're thinking about what you've got to do after lunch, what you've got to do before you're going out for dinner with this Tinder date you've got, whatever it is. Yeah. You're not thinking, I'm going to have a row with Sandra because she was disrespectful to me on the email, or Kevin in accounts needs to stop, calling me this in front of clients. You just don't have time or interest in it. And it comes down to a case of abundance. If you've got an abundance of workplaces, money streams, and an abundance of work in general, versus someone who's in one company thinking about one thing or one set of colleagues, you're just not going to be as bothered about any of the negative stuff that goes on.
Yeah, definitely. If it's just you who's working, if you're a freelancer and it's just up to you to get that job done, who are you going to argue with? Who are you going to bicker with? Yourself. It's kind of, there really is none of that office politics, and there's no, you are driven every day to meet the target because it's only you who is responsible. There's no.
If I can jump in on that as well, I mean, there's a huge advantage. So I've got a lot of experience working in scenarios where there's a mix of freelancers and permanent staff.
Yeah.
And that's a particularly sweet situation in a certain respect for at least an experienced freelancer, because the permanent staff tend to be more wrapped up in feeling, it's more important to them to feel respected. Their job title is very important to them. Their authority, whatever it may be, is extremely important to them. I'm not saying that's not justified, and I'm not belittling that. It's just a fact of this situation. Whereas you're in there as a freelancer, you're more than likely you're on a day rate or an hour rate. All you care about is, number one, your invoice is going to be paid. Number two, that they extend whatever contract you've got. You don't care if you're less than the guy beside you in terms of respect. If it doesn't interfere with those first 2 points, your invoice is going to get paid and you're going to get an extension. Like, that's all you care about. So it just changes the whole dynamic. You just don't even belittle yourself by even letting these things play in your mind, because you've got bigger fish to fry. Yeah,
definitely. And obviously pay is a big one for people, because we all know what it's like you want a pay rise from a boss in a 9 to 5, and it's kind of like it can be getting blood out of a stone. It's like nigh impossible. Even if you know you are worth more than what you are paid, it's up to somebody else to determine whether you are worthy of it. But if you're a freelancer and you're working for yourself, you set your own price. You set the price for that you are worth. And as long as you got the reputation to back it up, you will find that people will happily pay it, because if you can provide the results, like times by 10, times by 20 on their business, whatever it is, like SEO or copywriting, I charge this price because I can guarantee through my past receipts that I can double, triple, quadruple your business income. And this is why I'm charging what I am. So pay freedom and feeling valued, I think, are some of the biggest factors of why people go freelancing.
Yeah, I think so. I think in some ways, though, and this might vary from country to country, it's almost as interesting to explore why people don't go freelancing. And my experience of doing that transition was in a job where I had a 2-month notice to serve.
Yeah.
So I had to announce I wanted to leave, and I had to wait 2 months before I could leave.
Yeah.
And that was quite scary, because at least in my sort of area or niche, the ability to get a contract or a freelance gig 2 months ahead of time is nigh on impossible. You need to be there ready to start within a week, maybe 2 weeks. At most, they'll hold on for 2 weeks. But the nature of the freelance market is it's quick. The point of getting a freelancer in is you can get them there and then, ready to go. They'll hit the ground running. You're not waiting 2 months for a freelancer. You can get a permanent person for that. Yeah. So, or the projects will be over or whatever. You don't plan for freelancers. They're an ad hoc expense, I guess, but requirement. So I think a lot of people don't go into freelancing, contracting, whatever you like, because the actual initial step is quite scary. You don't know, you're going to have to serve notice in some company, and more people are on 3-month notice periods now. This has become really common, which makes it even more scary in many respects. So you've got to sit out that notice period, not knowing if you're going to have any money by the end of it, never having experienced getting a contract or a freelance gig. And it's probably even harder if you need multiple freelance gigs. It's a bit easier if you're transitioning into a full-time contract somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that is probably the thing that holds most people back, followed by being intimidated at the prospect of having to manage their own taxes, especially in European countries or the UK, potentially less than the US because of how they do taxes as employees anyway. But the HMRC can be quite a scary prospect, especially all the legislation they have. Things like IR35, which, to be honest, people blow up way more than they need to. It scares off people way more than it should. But yeah, I think that once you get a taste for freelancing, being a contractor, you'll never look back. Or if you do, it will have to be an insane offer.
Yeah. It's like when you leave your parents' house for the first time, you've had that kind of safety net there, just that comfort. And then when you leave your parents' house and you take on that responsibility, but with the responsibility comes the freedom and being able to run things on your own terms, you would begrudgingly, there would have to be something serious, like your house would have had to set on fire and you've got nothing for you to go back to your parents. It very much reminds me of that.
Mate, you can draw so many examples. It's like, imagine you've got your first girlfriend and she's an absolute crazy, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're scared to leave her because you think you might never get a girl again.
Yeah.
But then you do leave her, and like suddenly you can go out with your mates. You don't have anyone like calling your phone up constantly. You don't have anyone just being a toxic influence in your life. And you're like, God, I would never go back to that again. So the unknown is always much scarier than what it ever turns out to be.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a reason was there like a trigger for you to go into freelancing? Was there like a spark that was just like, that's it, I've had enough? What was that?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a spark so much as an observation over a relatively short space of time that this guy's making serious coin doing this, absolutely smashing it, and consequently getting a lifestyle that I couldn't afford. Yeah. And I was like, give me some of that. And I really went into it as early as I possibly could based on my skill level. I was probably not quite skilled enough to start it when I did, but I didn't care. I was going to do it. I saw how much money these guys were making, and I was like, give me that.
Give me that. Yeah. That's it. I mean, I know that with the risk comes the reward. It's the same old story. And I think that one piece of advice I would give to everybody out there is if you're thinking of, say, leaving a 9-to-5 and then going into freelancing is prepare, be honest with yourself and be prepared as much as you can. Don't sugarcoat anything. Be brutally honest with yourself and say, okay, what is it going to take for me to freelance, and do I have all those necessary skills? Obviously, some people thrive when they're thrown from the shallow end into the deep end. But I think it's always wise to look at the long picture and say, what do I actually need to know? What do I actually need to do to maneuver into this position for the best chances of success? So you said you perhaps weren't quite ready, but you might be the type of person that kind of thrives under pressure and can kind of pick up those last minute skills that you need.
Yeah, and a bit of that, a bit of, nothing really phases me that much. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? I'm not going to die. Yeah. Worst case, I have to get a job. Okay, fine. I've got a job, so I'm no worse off, am I? That was my view of how I looked at it overall. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't like it wasn't a case that there was no stress in it, but I was able to look at it with relative calm, and I wasn't too bad about it. I was confident enough that I'd find a way to make it work. But there's certain things you can do to ease the stress. I didn't do it, but it would have been less stressful had I done this. So save up enough money to be able to live for 3 months without making any money. That's a very good start.
Yeah.
Maybe look at your expenses before you go into it. Are you renting a full apartment on your own, paying more rent perhaps than you need to? Well, why not move into a house share for a little bit? Or potentially, as I know we spoke of this a second ago, maybe move back with your parents for a couple of months if you want to. I wouldn't have done that, but if money is really what's scaring you, find ways to make it work. There's always a solution. There's always a way to spend less money. So between saving up enough money to live for a while and reducing your costs, bang, money's not a problem anymore. Get rid of that excuse. What's the next excuse? All right, instability. What happens if you don't have another client? Okay, how do you deal with that? Abundance. Build up a network of people who you can verify already hire freelancers. How do you do that? Well, number one, start connecting with lots of freelancers on LinkedIn. Ask them or find out just from their profile who they work for. Then you can pretty quickly collect a list of 100 companies that definitely hire freelancers. That will take you an hour to do that. Then all right, these companies hire people who do the thing I want to do. Let's get to know these hiring managers, the heads of technology, the heads of social media, whatever it is. Get to know all of those. Build up a relationship with them. Show them some of your work. You don't even have to pitch yourself to them. Just say, hey, look, I want to be on your radar. This is some of my work. Do that with all of them. That will ease your concerns about getting more work massively. All right, so money's not an issue anymore if you do that. Continuation of work's not an issue anymore if you do that. What's your next issue? Maybe you're scared of taxes. All right, find an accountant. Just bite the bullet and pay someone 200 quid for a consultation. You won't even have to pay 200 quid, but something like that. Ask them, how do freelancers set themselves up? How can I avoid being stressed about X, Y, and Z that's bothering me? Job done. What else is there? There's an answer to everything.
There really is an answer to everything. And you hit on something really, really important there, and that is like a network. And it's so networks serve so many purposes. It's not just to find work. It's I'm in this position. I've got this problem that I don't know how to deal with. Yeah. Like I'm gonna go and tap into my network and find out what they did, such as finding somebody who's good at taxes, who is not going to rip you off or is going to do a good job. Even something like
DM. My answer a DM.
Yeah. This is it. And connecting with people is such a powerful thing, and it is only getting easier the more the world is becoming more connected. And we both work on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is for professionals, and people on there, I find, understand that network is net worth. So you are going to come across, if you network enough, you're going to come across people who are as serious about being successful as what you are, and they're the people that you need to maintain relationships with, because as one of my favorite sayings is lone wolves die alone, because we're meant to, if you hunt in packs, then the chances of success are unlimited. And yes, you may be a freelancer that's working on your own, but no single person is an island. Nobody can do everything on their own. Everybody has to work with somebody else to get something, because you can't know everything in the world. So yes, freelancing can be a solitary thing, but I would say a good 50% of it is tapping into other people's knowledge and other people helping you solve your problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even think of it from this perspective, whether you're a developer, whether you're a social media manager, anything else, copywriter, there's going to be subjects you don't know the answer to that come across your desk that there's a paid opportunity for. Now, if you've no network, your only way of monetizing that opportunity is by going and learning the thing, whatever it happens to be, so that you can speak with from an informed stance. You can't do that every time. You don't want to do that every time. Isn't it much better to have a network of people who maybe you could subcontract that piece of work out to? And that becomes a lot easier if you're part of networks already, with people that you can trust, with people who have aligned incentives to you, and scratch their back, they scratch yours.
This is it. And it's Yeah. And that leads to another good point, is that if you lead with value, people will automatically understand that you're not just a leech who is going to sponge off them. And then when they ask you for a favor or some knowledge, you're not going to like.
How do you lead with value? I think a lot of people won't understand
that. That's a very good question. Leading with value is, I'm going to give you all the knowledge that is in my brain that I think you will find useful, without expecting anything in return, but within reason. I'd like to caveat that with within reason. So for instance, if somebody, let's go back to networking. Okay. I need to talk to people because there's this thing that I don't know. I don't know how to, there's this job that I really want, or I'm struggling to find I'm struggling to find companies who I can freelance for. What are the steps? Me and you would then offer free value, lead with value of, okay, you need to design an approach, like a cold approach within DMs. You need to be able to build up some rapport. This is how you build up rapport. This is how you lead in with the question of, I would love to work with you. I'm going to offer some free work so you can see what quality of work that I can provide. And that's leading. You are leading with value. You're providing some value for free that person didn't know. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even to narrow down further on that, this is how I try and do it on LinkedIn. So let's say I find there's a list of people who I can potentially get something from, be it work, be it whatever. Now, they don't know me from Adam, so I can't just go and DM them, say, hey, give me your money. It doesn't work. I've tried it.
Yeah.
So, the way I do it there, and this is why there's some nuance to the point around leading with value. I try and connect with them. Then I look through, have they released any content recently? If yes, I might like the content and comment on it. There's very few people releasing content who don't appreciate a like and a comment on their content. Everyone wants that because they help circulate it.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. That's leading with value in a certain way. If they respond, then I might slide into the DMs. If they don't respond, I'll wait a week. Let's see, do they post anything else? I'll get into that. Eventually, if you're commenting on the stuff, they're going to interact with you. Once they've interacted with you, you're in their, you're living in their brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Then you can go into the DMs. Again, you don't ask for their money in the DMs. Maybe you point them to something useful based on something you've seen them post. Maybe you make a comment on the industry they're in and something relevant that you've seen take place in that, and ask their opinion on it. Build up slowly every time. Get into a conversation and then come back to them a little bit later. Ask them, can we hop on a call? I've got this idea I'd like to run by you. I think I can bring some value. Yeah,
100%. Excellent. Yeah. I think for this podcast, this is going to be a good point to finish on. So everybody out there, subscribe, follow us. Let us know what you thought to this very first episode. It's going to be on all our social media. All the links for everything that we're doing is going to be in all of the bios. And this is going to be a weekly thing where we're going to lead with value as much as we can. And we want to connect with people. Like I said.
And don't forget, anyone who who follows our Twitter will have an opportunity to come on and ask us for some advice.
Oh, you lucky people. Jesus Christ. You got everybody out there better be jumping on this opportunity, because it's we are leading with value. We just piss value. Yeah.
I think we might be bordering on taking value away from people at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Okay. Fantastic. So, guys, me and Tom will see you all next time. Remember, like, subscribe, get in contact. Do it. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Ciao for now.